Aspen Medical had a long record as a kind of expeditionary health company, and it would provide physicians and nurses to clinics in hotspots around the world and in support of the Australian Defence Force in Australia on their bases here and in East Timor. And it had done a lot of that kind of work of recruiting physicians, but it had not been a medical supply importer. It didn't deal in large volumes of PPE, whatever. The company did say to me, look, we have bought PPE before and we have relationships with suppliers in support of our health services around the world. So it did have that amount of experience, but we're talking about $1 billion national scale. So it was an interesting choice. Here we have the Health Minister, Greg Hunt, who has said very explicitly to Four Corners that he had nothing to do with the decisions taken by his department about who to hire to procure these goods, wasn't involved in assessments or contract negotiations or any of those things. He says his contact with Aspen Medical was minimal. But in the midst of February 2020, as Aspen Medical is filling these orders of PPE and the orders are becoming bigger and bigger and faster, he agreed to write and sign under the Commonwealth Government crest this letter of commendation, which is very kind of flowery. It says that this is a world recognised, nationally awarded company, and you know, the government commends Aspen Medical, but it was undated and it was addressed to whom it may concern. And we've spoken with experts who say that that's highly unusual. Greg Hunt's office said it's perfectly appropriate because Aspen Medical was seeking work overseas, and that's what Aspen Medical says as well. Well, Aspen Medical does have an interesting background. In addition to all that other work, it did this strange job in Sri Lanka in 2012 where it was meant to supply equipment and medical design for a hospital in Hambantota, and now it's been embroiled in a criminal investigation into corruption and money laundering, and it focuses on payments made to an offshore British Virgin Islands domiciled company called Sabre Vision Holdings, which was at the time beneficially owned by a pretty notorious Sri Lankan businessman with ties to the Rajapaksa regime. And that is now the subject of this extensive Financial Crimes Division investigation in Sri Lanka. Aspen Medical says that it's not been approached by any law enforcement agencies or courts of law or government authorities with respect to its work there, and it does not work with corrupt organisations. Aspen Medical say that effectively they stepped in and helped at a very difficult time, and it was a time of crisis, it should be said. The government was scrambling for PPE, and indeed Aspen Medical did provide the masks in question. Only a very small proportion of them had any kind of problems, and Aspen provided substitute stock where that occurred. So, it did do the function it was hired to do. And as I said, with respect to the corruption case, they say that they have no questions to answer and they've not been approached, but would help if they were.